are back with the Buffalonian Podcast. I'm Joe Callie. As always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Lost. It has been a minute. We took the preseason off. It was pretty nice. Ended up in Bermuda. Didn't get lost in the triangle. How's your time off, Dom? To start it off, how was your couple weeks?
Well rested. Excited to get back.
Yeah, I've been itching since the preseason started. And the 53-man roster is now a thing going into the season. A local Buffalo guy, Joe Andreessen, ended up making the team at the linebacker position. So that's pretty interesting. We'll get right to it. But first things first, we got to recap the preseason. We got to chat about it, give our thoughts. I'm just at the point. I take the preseason pledge. I do not care about the preseason. I care, but I don't care. I'm not going to be like those fans that are like, oh, the team looks terrible. Expect a terrible season. Like, I'm sorry. When Mitch Trubisky's on the field, they're going to look terrible. And they do. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, I guess, on the entire preseason? We can go game by game or we can just generalize it, whatever you want to do. What are you feeling?
I just think in general, it is what it is. I don't think Josh took 1.5 drives. So, like, after that, it just kind of, at that point, offensively, you just see that the backup quarterback position is just inept. So I guess, just, again, knock on wood that Josh doesn't get injured, because if he gets injured, we're screwed. But I think that's the case of majority of NFL teams. So it's not, the hugest deal. I honestly think it was, a solid preseason for development. I think you saw a lot of those, offensive linemen really start to develop, the second team offensive linemen really start to develop. Alec Anderson, Van Pran Granger, Grable. So I think it was it really showed, honestly, the depth of the day 3 class for the Bills, because you saw a lot of those guys making impact plays in the preseason, and a lot of them now are, on the roster. Daquan Hardy, is on the practice squad. So a lot of those guys stuck around and actually made the roster, which I think is impressive. And there's some people that you want to see a little bit more from, maybe. Didn't see a lot from Keon Coleman. Had that kind of that. Did you think that was a drop? It wasn't the best ball for Mitch. Did you see it?
It was not the best ball from Trubisky, but it hit him in the hands, right?
It was very Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, it was the T-Rex arms, not extending all the way.
Do you like the T-Rex arms or the alligator arms? I feel like both kind of work.
Both kind of work, but when I picture Kelvin Benjamin, it's like a big T-Rex, but he only extended his arms this far. That's where I'm at on the T-Rex alligator situation. But both analogies work, I would say.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think you would have definitely liked to see more of Keon, but what are you gonna do?
It's the preseason. It's hard to evaluate pass catchers when your third quarterback, Shane Buechele, gets injured. Mitch Trubisky gets injured, so you're basically having Ben DiNucci and Anthony Brown had to come in on short weeks and actually have to play significant snaps. And then you just didn't see Josh a lot because obviously it rained. And again, it just makes I think this is just a very clear thing for the NFL, is that the preseason is just become more and more relevant. I think teams care significantly more about training camp on who's going to actually make the roster. And yeah, I think you see Joe Andreessen, he makes the roster because of his performance in the preseason, and maybe some other people, shifted the roster bubble. But I think a lot of these decisions were made before really preseason took off, and then we could talk about them in a second. But I don't know. I just think it's more and more likely that we're going to go down another. Like, we went down from 4 preseason games to 3 preseason games, and I think there's a high likelihood we go down one more preseason game and add another regular season game. I just
100%.
It's a terrible product.
I'm right on the same page with you. If you look at how most of these teams played their third preseason game, their starters were not in. Carolina's were, but it was just not what you're really. The coaches didn't really seem to care all that much, and neither did the teams in general. So I go for a regular season game over a preseason game any day. Go with 2 preseason games. I get it, though. I get the point of the preseason, right? Young players or new players accustomed to working with them, right? Like Josh Allen and Connor McGovern at center, except they only played a drive and a half. Like, it's just, my argument for having preseason games was put to bed by the Bills not playing their starters like at all, pretty much, except for Pittsburgh, and their starting quarterback wasn't even involved in it. So, take that as you will, but I can 100% see where you're going with that. An extra an extra regular season game and ditching that third preseason game, and I'd be there. I'd be there for week 1. Come on, like how could you
Like
not be?
it would just be. I mean, it's simple. Like the first preseason game, you play your starters till halftime, and then you play your backups in the second half. And the second preseason game, you do what you do for the third preseason game, and just play your backups in the entire time. Like then your starters are getting a half, and like I don't know. I just think it's a waste. I think teams actually prefer, you could push back the season. You could start the season a week earlier and push the season a week later to add another bye. So you're going into Labor Day and then also President's Weekend in February. And also, I just think, I'm sorry, I just think people, I just generally think teams would be, more willing to do. I do have to say, like, it's nice to see like the rookies and like the young players get their run, but yeah, it's just a bad product. I mean, I was watching, I worked the 2 home games, so I didn't get to see like focus on a lot, but I was watching the Steelers game and it was just so boring. Like it
Yeah,
was
I
9-3.
mean,
Like, come
I
on.
I ended up, well, we'll get into this in a minute. I'm having to transcribe game story for my job, right? So I have to write down the scoring plays and every like big plays. It was the slowest, most boring thing I've ever watched. I wanted to put my head through my laptop screen as I'm typing all of this. It was ridiculous. So it's just, I would 100% be okay with an extra regular season game than moving out of the way. And like you said, play the starters in the first half of the first game, backups in the second half, and then you just play the backups for the second game as like you would for the third game. I think that's a perfect way to do
And
it. But
so
we'll
before we
see.
talk about the practice squad and the 53-man roster, I think this biggest news that we missed when we were gone was that Matt Milano tore his bicep. Good news is he's on IR designated to return, so they most likely think he's not going to be out for the year. But I think Bean talked about it today that it's just too early in the process to really give an accurate timetable. So he's probably going to be out, I would assume till December. Maybe he gets a little earlier, maybe Thanksgiving. But that's at least half the season, maybe a little more. And just Trey White 2.0. I mean, it's just brutal. I'm sorry.
It
It's
is, and
very
it was against a dummy. It was a tackle dummy that he just moved off of and tore his bicep. Like, what are the chances? Like, that's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, it just hurts to see kind of like this is the second, all-pro, homegrown defensive player, first-team all-pro too. They're both first-team all-pros. Trey White with the ACL comes back, and as he's like kind of getting back into form, tears his Achilles. Now he's not even a Bill anymore. Now Milano, suffers that broken leg last year, and now tears his bicep. So yeah, I mean, it definitely makes it a little bit more, I think, challenge. We had the same challenges last year of injuries defensively, and then they had to try and figure out how to replace Matt Milano because it's
Yeah.
very, Moneyball-esque where, like, you can't replace Matt Milano one-on-one. Like, you have to replace him in the aggregate. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
that
right.
just
Well,
they did
they
because
tried
if you look
AJ
at
Klein off the plane from Florida, so they tried
like,
it. That didn't work.
well, you look what they did last year, Joe. Like, early downs, they had Tyrell Dodson in there for, like, running in early downs, and then third down, they put Jordan Poyer to be
Jordan
really the
Poyer in.
second linebacker and put a third in. So I actually do think, that's funny enough, I actually do think they're reasonably equipped to, like, do that strategy again, kind of, in a similar way, because Mike Edwards, who they got, from the Chiefs, and we'll talk about the other injuries, but none of them are on IR. And if Mike Edwards is good to go, like, he's kind of that, he played a lot of dime, that linebacker type on third down for the Chiefs. So, like, if he kind of slides into that Poyer role of, like, he's your starting safety opposite Taylor Rapp, and then on third downs, he comes down to play linebacker, and you put, maybe they put DeMar Hamlin in or Cole Bishop in to play safety. I think that's how you, and then you have just Dorian Williams probably play the Tyrell Dodson role this year. Just, hey, you're out there to be a run defender and not completely kill us on liability on the early downs and coverage, and then take them off the
Yeah.
field on third down. Like, I think that's kind of, I think that's a strategy.
Listen, I'm not going to argue with you at all because, listen, it's balls to the wall at this point. You got to do what works, and you lost your number one linebacker. He legitimately, I can't even stress this. I just want to wear my Matt Milano jersey like one time when he's actually on the field and healthy.
Probably your best
That
defensive
hasn't.
player, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Your best defensive player. And he's unfortunately riddled with injury. The bug just keeps biting. I don't understand it. And it's a shame for him because he's also 31, is he not? So he's a little up there in
28,
age. Where
29. I think
is
I
he?
don't think he's I don't think he's quite 30, but he's 20. I think he's 28. So he might be turned
Let's
29. But
see.
yeah,
He's
definitely
30. He's the average of what we said. He's 30
really.
years old. Oh, yeah, he's 30. That's tough.
Did
Like
he just turn
that's
30?
tough. Let's see. July 28th. So yes, but he's 30. So it's his 30-year-old season. So it's kind of that's a rough thing to happen.
Yeah,
So
and you're
it's
nearing the end of the prime, couple maybe good years left. So yeah, definitely is tough. I also
mhm.
think he only has. I think after this year, he only has one more year left in his contract. So like, I mean, it's just unfortunate. Anyway, slice it, but I just think that's how they're gonna replace him. And I mean, they did have degreeing success, after kind of figuring out that plan. So hopefully that all works out. But then looking at the injuries, MVS, Curtis Samuel, Mike Edwards, Cole Bishop, DeMar Hamlin, uh, Mitch Trubisky at the proper moment. None of them are on IR, so none of them are going to miss the first 4 games. So I think that's a good sign as well that you're maybe those guys maybe not healthy for week 1, but they're not healthy enough to be out for the first month. Again, you have the short turnaround to week 2 against the Dolphins. They did get Mike
Yeah.
White, who I guess can play, but I think Mike White might be part of Mitch Trubisky. So
I'm saying let's put Mitch on the practice squad, and then we can elevate Mitch if need be. But I would trust Mike White way more. I wonder how imagine if Matt Milano was playing and actively in the locker room. Who says he won't be? But Mike White, the last time he saw Matt Milano, he got turned into a folding chair. So that's kind of a rough look for
yeah,
him.
he said part of his rib is on the 30-yard line.
I love it. Listen, Mike White is a good pickup for the Bills. He could probably go in and actually win a couple games for you, I think. I'm more confident in him than Trubisky personally, because he's done it for the Jets. He didn't do it for the Dolphins, but he keeps the AFC East train rolling and just keeps hopping teams. Maybe we'll see him on the Patriots in the coming years. Who knows? But listen,
That's what someone said.
What'd you say?
Someone did say that, like, yeah, it's probably this is gonna be like on the Pats in like a couple years and complete the 4 teams. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
who
interesting.
knows? He's a solid backup quarterback, though. I can't really complain about that pickup at all.
I don't really have anything to complain about the 53 man. Like, I think it was pretty straightforward. I think Casey Toohill making the team is the only one that was kind of a surprise because he literally was one of those guys that was injured and then played 1 game and sucked.
Yeah,
But
right.
maybe that's more of a special teams on the kickoff kind of thing. Daquan Hardy, that was kind of a surprise because I thought he played. Honestly, I mean, you could talk about maybe they didn't trust him in the return game, and he was kind of be the punt returner. But I actually thought he was a pretty good defensive back. So like, I thought he
Yeah.
actually had some value there that I thought was going to be keep him on the team. But luckily they got him back on the practice squad. They didn't make that trade with the Jets for their returner, who had a really good Covington, or I probably mispronounced his name, but he played. Yeah, he broke what I think I saw 15 tackles and 8 returns. So, and that's kind of who
Mhm.
you need back there in the kickoff game too. You need kind of, I think that again, as we alluded to, like you need a guy back there that can maybe hit a gap, break a tackle, and keep going. He seems like one of those players that's capable of doing that. But
Yeah.
other
I
than that,
mean,
I
you know
didn't
what
find it
the big one
surprise.
is? The big release. A lot of Bills fans here, they're like, "Oh, Justin Shorter's the next big thing." Nope, he's gone.
He's not even on the
He's
practice
gone.
squad.
No, he's gone. Like he's not.
I haven't
So
seen
we
where he's
can
going.
stop
But yeah,
hearing about Justin Shorter, possibly taking over the roster.
I thought you were gonna say
The
Frank
one that
Gore.
would say, oh, Frank Gore Jr. No, that is tough. I think he's going to be signed to the practice squad. I
He
don't know
did
if he
get
has
signed to
been
the
yet.
practice squad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I he had a great preseason, but again, how can you look at the preseason and be like, okay, against first string defenses, he's going to be able to do the same thing he did against third stringers, right? So it's kind of tough. You're going to have to kind of give him his chances when you can. If you elevate him at any point due to injury, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But for
And the
his
Bills had
sake,
depth there.
yeah, they have so much depth. James Cook, Ty Johnson, what's the new guy's name? Ray Davis Jr. or Ray Davis. Um, they're
Yeah, they just
solid
have
at
too much
running
depth.
back. So
Yeah.
last season he probably would have made the team.
Yeah, probably, honest to
Because
God.
Latavius, right? Like he's not back squad, so
Harris,
he's
yeah.
older.
It definitely could have been more interesting last year off season, but yeah, this off season, like Yeah, I mean, I just think the roster kind of it's not too surprising. Again, other than Daquan Hardy, I think that was the one that was surprising. But happy that those draft picks, those day 3 picks played really well. I think Ray Davis played. I think Ray Davis might have been played like the best draft pick. I thought he played really well, especially in the second preseason game. Obviously, we didn't see a lot of Cole Bishop, which is kind of sad because I think as I alluded to, if maybe you have Rapp, but maybe two safeties now actually become big, having Mike Edwards and player X is going to get significant playing time, not just outside the starting safety spot, but if you drop out and take Dorian Williams off the field on third down, like that could have been a Cole Bishop opportunity, which I feel like is now going to be given to DeMar Hamlin because even though he had the hamstring, veteran, they trust him. Like he just wasn't able to earn the coaching staff's trust. Keon, we'll see. I just think Keon. I just think he's just going to be one of those. I don't want to say just a guy. I just think he's just going to be like a red zone guy. Like
Yeah.
I don't see him having a massive. Like I just think Samuel, the two tight ends, Shakir. I think Matt Collins could maybe get more snaps than him just because of the veteran presence. Like we'll see if MVS. I'm a little concerned if Coleman's, outside of that red area, what's his production really going to look like outside of like maybe run blocking? Like I think he is a good blocker. So I definitely think he's a guy that could kind of play that role of, you said a screen pass to Khalil Shakur and his lead blockers, Keon Coleman, are in the run game. So I think that's how he could get work. But
right. Yeah. But like you said, I 100% agree. Just his size and like wise, I feel like he might just be the big red zone guy. That's all Dawson Knox is. He's a red zone machine.
I mean, he's a tight end, but I understand. If he can get 6 or 7, I think he can get 6 or 7 touchdowns. I think, and just develop a little bit this season as a route runner. I think it's a win.
Yeah, the expectations can't be too high for him. What'd you say?
It's just going to be bumpy. Like I just don't think. I think 1 week he'll catch 5 passes for 50 yards and a touchdown. The next week he'll catch a ball for 13 yards. It's going to be a little. Honestly, guy, it's probably going to be a little Gabe Davis-y, except maybe now without the vertical threat, maybe a little bit better in the red zone.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to have growing pains too. This offense in general is going to have growing pains. So you can't expect Coleman to come out right away and take over for Diggs and Davis like that. Like it's not going to happen.
I do think they're going to be able to run the ball really well. Like I do think that's like kind of. I think they're going to be able to run the ball very well, and I think then that's going to open up a lot of things in the play action game, which is one of Josh's best suits. In the under center play action game. So I do think that's going to help. And I think Joe Brady is a good enough play caller where they'll find ways to, get their wide receivers the ball in space. I just get a little concerned with, they really do need MVS to be have at least a role on this team because he's the only one that has like long speed and the vertical element. And if he doesn't play well or he's injured, like I don't know where they're really going to get that vertical 20-yard down the field kind of guy. I think that's their one issue that I'm concerned about. But other than that, like again, the rookies played pretty well. Other than I don't know about you, but like I didn't hear a word about Daywan Carter the entire offseason.
Oh, Dwayne Carter, yeah, I haven't either. Did he make the team? Yeah, right.
He did. I mean, he made the team, which is kind of like he just didn't do anything. And I'm not saying it's a super cause of concern because defensive tackle is kind of just a weird-ish position kind of as a rookie and developing, but you at least would have wanted to see like one play, and it was kind of like you didn't hear anything.
Yeah, you're right. His name wasn't called on the broadcast at all. I didn't hear it once.
So I mean he's like DT4. I don't think he's gonna have a big role. I think he might be. I'm gonna say this right now. I'm gonna make this prediction right now. I think Dwayne Carter is gonna be a week 1 inactive.
Okay.
I think he's gonna be inactive because I think they view Dewan Smoot as a guy that can kick in and play defensive tackle and edge. And I just think I just think they're gonna. I don't know. I think Dwayne Carter is gonna be a game day inactive. I don't know. He didn't provide anything, and I think he's a guy that they're going to hope that he can come around and make an impact later in the season. But we didn't hear anything, Joe. Like I don't know.
No, his name again was not called as far as I can tell. I don't remember. Believe me, I'm writing the game down as it happens. He was not there. So I did not remember him being called. We'll see. Listen, I mean, he's got a chance to grow under a solid system. He's got a lot of guys in front of him who are solid at what they do at all, So I don't think it's an indictment necessarily. I think it's more of just we're gonna see maybe over the years what he's gonna be, not in the moment. So
Sure. I
we'll
do have to
see.
say though, Groot looked good.
Greg Russo did look good. Talk about I was that Pittsburgh game. He's the bright spot, getting back there, killing Russell Wilson, who's also Pittsburgh's starting quarterback. We'll see how that goes for them.
Yeah,
But
because the preseason didn't matter. Like the dude was trash in the preseason and still won the
yeah,
job.
right. Yeah. So listen, Greg Russo's going to have a season. Hopefully, Von Miller has recovered from his injury the full amount of time he needs. We saw him starting to get back to himself in that Chiefs game. He was getting some pressure on Mahomes, but hopefully he's back in shape, ready to go for the regular season and be what you signed him for. He took the pay cut. He's on incentive-based deal now. So if he wants the money, he's got to play for it, essentially. So he's betting on himself. So I'm all for that. We'll see what happens. And we got to talk about Buffalo making the roster too. We threw that up there in the beginning. Joe Andreessen, a UB product from Lancaster High School. It's a cool story. It's a really cool story. But where did he play before UB? I'm blanking on the university.
It was
Bryant. That's it. Yes. And then his senior season was at UB. Just so happened to start producing UB games for the radio when that happened. So I actually remembered him and his name. So it's cool to see a hometown kid our age make the Bills roster. Did you see that picture float around of him? He's at a tailgate in a Milano jersey like 2 years ago.
That's a favorite player.
Yeah, and he's the depth guy for him now. So it's kind of crazy. We'll see
because of him.
Yeah, right. We'll see if he sticks around, if Milano ends up coming back at any point. But he put on a show in that Pittsburgh game. He earned his spot. He really did. He played his heart out, and
he definitely played his. He played. It was a combination of he played his way on, and then Deion Jones played his way off.
Like, yes,
he was so bad that he just So it's a little bit of a combination of both. Like I definitely in the third preseason game, he made some mistakes, but he didn't quite make as many mistakes as Deion Jones. So
Deion Jones was like a Swiss cheese out there. He had holes all over him. Didn't know what was going on, but no, I'm excited. The season starts September 8th. We're about a week and a half out. So
I think he's the winner of the preseason, Andreessen, because I think he was a guy without the. I mean, I know we're talking about like cutting the preseason, but like without the preseason, I don't think he makes the team. So, good for him. But out of the people that made the 53, other than Dwayne Carter, I know we talked about Coleman. Is there any other player that you were kind of underwhelmed with throughout this offseason or concerned about?
See, this might be a tough thing for me to say. T-Bass missing the 51-yarder. Okay, I get it. It's the preseason, but like the way the last season ended, like, come on. Like, what are we doing? You got to come out and kick strong. And, McDermott made a comment in the post-game presser. He's got to make that. And yeah, sure, you can say that all you want, but listen, I'm not saying we should have drafted a kicker by any means. I'm not saying should have picked up a kicker. I'm just hoping he bounces back from the demons inside, if you will, because he's going to hold himself back. That's the problem. If he's anxious, his confidence is down. So I guess I don't really have anyone I'm like super disappointed made the roster or anything like that. He's the only one, I guess, with a question mark.
T-Bass is a good one. I do have to say this though, and I'm not saying I'm concerned about this player. I'm not saying he's been bad. I'm very intrigued to watch him. Is Osiris Jones. I feel like he's kind of a guy that kind of got under like media didn't, I don't know what to say. Like he didn't really get a microscope on him throughout his rookie year, and he was solid, but not spectacular, right? Like he was just kind of just a guy, and that's fine. Like I think you want your offensive linemen to just kind of be dudes, and as long as you're not hearing them, that means they're not doing anything egregiously bad. But I think this is a guy that, with all the juggling going around, next to him with Mitch Morris leaving, McGovern moving over now, new center next to him. I just wonder how that's gonna. I think that's been kind of swept under the rug. Is like this is still a young player, and they do need him to kind of take a step. I think and he has Pro Bowl caliber potential. They drafted him in the second round, and he had a couple of bad reps in the preseason. It's nothing to be concerned about. I just think he's going to be a guy to be interesting to look at the other season, because this is also a decision that next to him, they moved on from the guy to his left and Mitch Morris, and maybe next offseason to his right. I kind of think that the way that they're developing these offensive linemen behind Spencer Brown, that I think they're going to give one of those guys a shot next year and let him go and not pay him $15 million. So Torrance is vital to kind of have a big year, because his communications changed this year and it might change again next year. So he's kind of, they need to make sure he's developing properly. I'm a little concerned about that.
Okay. Yeah. That's a very valid concern. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. That's all we can say after the preseason. I'm sorry, I can't make.
I don't want to do any predictions for the Cardinals game, because I know we'll do that next week. But does your season, after a month in, month away ish? I think I was 11-6, and
I was 12-5, I think.
And I'm still kind of 11-6, but I could see 10-7 now. I've kind of waned a little bit from 11-6. I think I'm still. Gun to the head, I probably will say 11-6, but I could definitely see 10-7. Again, I just think if the floor of Josh Allen on offense and the floor of Sean McDermott equals 10 wins, I just defensively and offensively. But I don't know. I kind of need to see the first month before I think they're really a true 11 or 12 win team.
Yeah,
it's not like they had a schedule. If they had a second place schedule, I think I would say 11, but they play the number ones now. Still,
yeah.
You say.
No, you're absolutely right. I said 12-5, and like you, I mean, I could see them going anywhere between 12-5 and 10-7. I'll stick to my guts here. All right, I'm gonna go with the gut feeling. Okay, I'm gonna stay at 12-5. I think it's going to be a rougher start. I think they'll hit their stride. And like you said, the floor is literally 10 with McDermott and Allen on both sides of the ball. That's a solid statement right there. But I'll give them the 2 wins. I think, though, it's going to be tough. Even the Cardinals, right? You don't really know what you're getting coming in week 1. It's just, you don't know what the Bills are going to put out on the field.
They are. I mean, their defense is terrible. I don't want to break down the game. The Cardinals' defense is terrible. But their offense is definitely,
they could put up some points.
Rushing teams, and they are adding Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't want to do a breakdown, but I think it's a shootout.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll do a mid-season reassessment at some point once we get halfway through the season. I'm just happy to be back into some regular season and regular pod schedule. Speaking of which, if we anything else you want to add before we go into the upcoming events or anything like that?
No, I think I'm good.
All righty. So that's our preseason recap. And we will be doing weekly episodes from here on out through the regular season and when the Sabres season starts up. We are planning to do the betting on the Bills again. So later in the week, we'll preview the game. Specifically, as Dom mentioned, the Cardinals game that'll be the first one. And we'll go all the way through until the Bills are done. And we'll probably, still do our Super Bowl pregame and go from there. So listen, we'll chat more about the Sabres as their season comes closer. The Bills preseason included, 53-man roster set. They're playing a week and a half from today. So I could not be more excited. Dom, how are you? I guess, are you excited or are you nervous? What's your gut feeling about this? We did records. Straight feeling. What is it?
I think I'm more excited than nervous, because I just think the expectations are lower. I just don't for me, last year very much felt like with this core and how old they were, and how many veterans they brought back and what they were at the salary, the cap, their books. I really did feel like last year was this is has to be a Super Bowl year. This year it's kind of if they win the Super Bowl, I'm happy. If they don't, I'm not going to be completely upset. I'll still want them to win the Super Bowl, but if they do what they did this year from last year and win the division, win a playoff game, I won't really be as upset as last year. I just think this is kind of you gotta kind of reopen. The window for Allen has closed a little bit this season, but to reopen it, they had to close it a little bit to get, to push it back.
Yeah, you got to get the momentum. You got to get it down and up. Yeah.
Yeah. That's perfect. I know people really can't sometimes see us, but then I completely agree with you, but that's kind of how it is. Like they have to slightly close it so they can open, fully open it again. And I trust Brandon Beane and the coaching staff to kind of be able to do that. And are you nervous or excited? Like, I mean, I think I'm more excited. Last year, again, I would say I was definitely more nervous than excited because I was like, this is like kind of a make or break year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Especially, I mean, talk about when they went 5-5 and we got on that day, and I that was it. I was like, this is it. They're not even making the playoffs. It's over. Um, I'm definitely more excited. There's a lot of unknowns. Like can't wait to see pan out. Right, like the wide receiver room. Who's going to be really the true wide receiver one as the season progresses? Will Tyler Bass be able to kick consistently this season? I'm more nervous than excited there. But overall,
Sure, that one, yeah,
I
I was
mean,
about to say.
yeah, that one specifically more nervous. But I'm more excited than anything. I just can't wait to get back into football season in general. We're at our first shot of a dynasty fantasy football league this year too. So that adds a
You want to
little
talk
bit of
about that?
excitement for me because we get to run the entire basically NFL offseason like we're a GM. Through the draft, we draft the rookies only. If you're unfamiliar with the dynasty league, I'll just run through it quickly. We'll draft the rookies only from here on out after the formal first draft, and then essentially you can trade. Dom and I traded picks. I ended up with Josh Allen as my quarterback. I gave 2025 first. So we're gonna hope that pans out. We're gonna hope it pans out. Hope Josh Allen has a year, but it's a cool thing, a little different. So I'm excited for it. But we'll keep you posted on that as the season progresses. But listen, football is back. We're in like the last phase of
And
that.
we're back.
Yeah, we're back. Absolutely right. We're back. Weekly episodes from here on out. We'll keep you posted on dates. I'll throw them up on social media when we'll have a day nailed down by the end of this week of when the episodes will be releasing. And then betting on the Bills is always on a Friday. So keep your ears and eyes open. Can't wait to walk you through the season and hopefully it's a good one. But Dom, that's going to do it. How do you always end these, buddy?
Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.